Welcome back to another FPL video. This will be the updated transfer tips for Game Week 22. I'm going to be covering another 10 players for the buy, hold, sell and skip sections. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and if you want to see my thoughts about Bowen, Trent Alexander-Arnold and other key assets such as Erling Haaland, then be sure to check out the initial transfer tips video, which is already up on the channel. And the plan is to do a team selection video, an updated wildcard team, and I'm also open to ideas for any other types of videos you want to see on this channel. Also a reaction stream as well as the deadline stream for Game Week 22 on the Tuesday next week. So there's still a long way to go before the deadline, and that's why there's going to be plenty of content headed your way still. Without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. The first player covered today is Ivan Toney, and I would class him as a buy, but he's not essential. He's not an absolute must-have, but I want to stress the importance of him having the most fixtures of any forward in the game. With that fixture confirmed in Game Week 29, the blank game week between Burnley and Brentford, that is a plum fixture for Toney, and he's a very good way of covering double Game Week 25, where he faces Liverpool and Manchester City. Not the best W you're ever going to see, and if anything, it's probably the toughest you can get. But Toney has done well against both clubs before, in particular Manchester City away from home last season, where he scored a brace and got a massive haul, and I could still see him doing well against Tottenham and West Ham, which are tough fixtures on paper. They're marked as a grey fixture on the FDR, but I still think Toney can do well in any single one of these games coming up. But with the difficulty of these fixtures, you would argue his ceiling is lower in a lot of them, and that's why I still think Ollie Watkins, despite scoring only one goal in the last 7 game weeks, I can see the appeal of moving him on to Ivan Toney. I still think Watkins' fixtures are much better, as I'll cover very soon. But with Toney, very small sample size. He scored upon his return against Nottingham Forest, that controversial free kick. But what you get from Toney is sheer consistency and great value for money. One goal, of course, upon his return, an XGI figure of 0.41, and most of it is from the expected assist, because in terms of goal threat, he didn't offer much upon his return, but he did very well with his overall performance. So I think Toney is a buy, but I must stress, because of the difficulty of the fixtures, I don't think he's essential or even in the top 2 forwards in the game. The last time I covered Gordon, he was 6.2 million, and I talked about selling him because he had Liverpool and Manchester City coming up, but he returned in both games, and now there is a fantastic fixture on in the long term up until Game Week 32 for Newcastle. It's a sea of green. There is the odd difficult fixture here and there, Aston Villa away and Arsenal away in the next 5, but for the next 10 11 game weeks or so, you're getting so many good fixtures and only about 3 or 4 difficult ones on paper. Newcastle are in terrible form. They've got 1 victory out of the last 7 Premier League games, but they still score goals. They offer a lot of threat, and Anthony Gordon has been extremely consistent, particularly in home matches, with only 1 blank this season, which came against Nottingham Forest. Gordon has 7 goals and 7 assists for the campaign, 9 big chances and 10 big chances created, and 104 FPL points. He's only 6 behind Saka, who is also priced significantly higher. So I think Gordon is a buy. I know a lot of people are looking in the market for Newcastle players: Isak, Gordon, Dan Burn, and if I had to rank them, it'd be Gordon first, Isak second, and Burn third, especially if you have the Brathwaite in goal already in your team. With Man City having great fixtures over the next 5 game weeks and a double game week in 25, a lot of people will be in the market for Man City players, and also some defenders will enter our thinking. And I think Kyle Walker is the best of a bad bunch. He plays the vast majority of minutes in the Premier League, and he was subbed off early in one match because he felt some discomfort, but he has been so consistent with the minutes, and that's very rare to get from a Pep Guardiola side, particularly in the defensive line. He's priced at 5.4 million. His ownership is still less than 20%. 2 assists for the season, including 1 against Newcastle in Game Week 21, and he got 2 bonus points as a result, 16 key passes and 65 FPL points. So I think he will reach over 100 FPL points, which no Man City defender did last season, and I back him to do quite well over the next 5 game weeks, and I see Man City keeping some clean sheets and going on a very good run until the end of the season. But Kyle Walker isn't a great FPL asset. Only 3 big chances created. His expected assist is 2.41. Not bad, but also not that great. And his XG is 0.28, and I just never get that sensation that he's going to score. Maybe it's going to happen over the next 5 game weeks, who knows? Football is unpredictable, and it's not all about stats. But I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Kyle Walker. I'm only recommending him if you are looking for that double gaming defender. I think Kyle Walker is the best of a bad bunch there between the Brentford and Man City assets so far. Liverpool could have that double in 25 if they reach the Carabao Cup final, and their fixture against Luton in Game Week 26 is moved to Game Week 25. And as a result, the likes of Trent would be the best double Game Week 25 defender. But as things stand, it would be Kyle Walker, and I don't really see many other options comparing with him in terms of clean sheet chances and the minutes potential. We're now onto the hold section, and I think Julian Alvarez is just about a hold, but this will change to a sell once Erling Haaland is confirmed to be back, and we also see De Bruyne starting a consistent run of games, and that's where Alvarez is most at risk of dropping to the bench. Some people would say Foden is the one who could drop to the bench with Kevin De Bruyne taking his spot, but I'm looking at Alvarez, who would be most at risk in that scenario. For the time being, though, I would hold, and against Burnley at home, it's difficult to sell a player of that quality and also in a team as good as Man City. But with Alvarez, he has been disappointing in recent weeks. He had a great start to the season, but certainly tailed off since Game Week 8. He's still priced at 7 million. He's quite a template pick at 36.1% ownership, 6 goals, 8 assists, not a bad return for the season, 10 big chances, and just 1 point shy of 100 FPL points for the campaign. 5 big chances created, 48 key passes. There's some good underlying numbers here for the Argentine, but I have to say, in the near future, despite having a double game week in 25, I think Alvarez could soon drop to the bench and he would become a sell in the near future. Ollie Watkins has always been a buy or a hold whenever I cover him in these transcripts videos, and it's going to be the same case here. I can understand why some of you might want to sell him. You've got Joao Pedro as a much cheaper alternative, and you might also need the funds to buy back Salah, Son, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Erling Haaland. To fit all of them in, or maybe 2 of them plus Kevin De Bruyne, will be difficult and sacrifices would need to be made, and I would be open to selling Ollie Watkins in that scenario. But you also have the likes of Saka, Jarrod Bowen, who you could also sell and find the funds to get these assets like Salah back in. But with Ollie Watkins, I'd still hold on to him because the long-term fixtures for Aston Villa are fantastic, and he's still getting assists from time to time. I think the consistency he showed for the first 10, 15 game weeks of the season has tailed off slightly, but he's still returning in most games. He is very frustrating. I might not go as far to captain him in the near future, but there are still some plum fixtures where it might be a possibility, especially if Salah or Haaland aren't available in the near future. He's priced at 8.9 million. His ownership is 55.9%, the second highest of any FPL asset, only behind Bukayo Saka. 9 goals, 11 assists, 16 big chances, 121 FPL points, the most by any forward this season. And the other underlying numbers like 56 shots inside the box, an XG of 9.19, 6 big chances created, and 31 key passes. You could name any attacking stat and Ollie Watkins would have a good number there. And he's also a decent finisher, not the most clinical, but he gets into great positions. That's his biggest strength. And he also does take some chances. So I think with the fixtures coming up, and despite the great alternatives you have elsewhere, I still think Ollie Watkins is in the top 2 forwards in the game. The final hold of this video is Bukayo Saka, who is also the highest owned player in FPL with 62.4% ownership, and that has meant he has gone up in price continuously to 9.1 million despite the returns not being there. He had a great start to the season. In the first 7-8 game weeks, he was returning constantly with multiple double-digit returns and getting a lot of bonus points in the process. But since that injury he got, which saw him ruled out against Man City, he has been a bit indifferent with the FPL returns. He's been quite consistent overall, but the last 5 game weeks has meant a lot of blanks, and now he is more dispensable and we're much more open to selling Bukayo Saka. And if you want to get Kevin De Bruyne, Salah or Heung-min Son, I think Saka's a great way of doing that. But I keep him for at least 1 more game week. I still think he'll return quite consistently until the end of the season. But the next 5 fixtures aren't great for Arsenal, and I'm not really a big fan of Saka at this moment in time. I think he's just about a hold, but I'm very tempted to class him as a sell, and I think that will change by game week 23 or 24. The only reason I'm saying to hold him is because we need more information on Mohamed Salah and other key assets like Erling Haaland before we can commit to such moves like Saka back down to Salah, or maybe to Heung-min Son as well, who is yet to return from the Asian Cup. So Saka is a hold. I think he'll do well against Nottingham Forest and the next couple of game weeks, but there are better alternatives who offer much better value in the midfield. We have received some updates about Mohamed Salah after his injury in the African Cup of Nations, and he has returned to Liverpool, and Jurgen Klopp said the following: if he is fit before the AFCON final, then he'll probably go back to the competition. And we also got a statement by the Egyptian FA which says the Egyptian FA announces that Mohamed Salah will travel to England to receive treatment following the match between Egypt and Cape Verde, with the hope that he will join the Egyptian national team if it qualifies for the semi-finals. So that would imply that Salah will miss the Chelsea game and he might even miss the Arsenal game, but there's still a chance he could make it for one of those fixtures, especially if Egypt are knocked out of AFCON and Salah does make some good progress in terms of the injury. The Liverpool doctors will be working on him. So I still think he's a sell, but there's no doubt it's a difficult decision for those that held on to Salah up until now. It's very close between a hold and a sell, and I'd lean more towards a sell at this moment in time because you've got De Bruyne with a double in Gameweek 25. That's confirmed. Some great fixtures. A lot of alternatives like Diogo Jota, Richarlison, Pascal Gross, Jarrod Bowen, and there are many more where that came from. Even Saka or Foden could be considered in that bracket. Salah's stats speak for themselves. His price has gone down to 13.1 million with his ownership dropping dramatically. 14 goals, 8 assists, his XGI is almost 20, and he's got the most FPL points of any player so far this season. And with Erling Haaland still injured and potentially returning very soon, he's the only one that I can see catching up to Salah in the meantime. But for me, Salah is a sell, and once he returns, we all know that will turn into a green and he'll become a buy again. But for now, with all the information we have, I think it's difficult to bench a player who's priced at over 13 million when you've got so many alternatives in multiple positions. There are reports linking Kieran Trippier with a move to Bayern Munich, but the reason I'm talking about selling him is because he's produced 4 points since Gameweek 15, and he has missed 2 matches against Liverpool and Fulham, where Newcastle actually won that game and kept a clean sheet. But Trippier for me is a sell. The long-term fixtures are great, but I'd rather go to Trent Alexander-Arnold if you want a premium defender. Not to mention you can go to cheaper alternatives like Estupinian, Gabriel, Pedro Porro, and many others I've covered in the best wildcard team videos and transfer tips, and use those funds to upgrade the midfield and go to De Bruyne, Salah when he returns, Heung-min Son, and also Erling Haaland up top. He is priced at 6.7 million, Kieran Trippier. His ownership is 38.2%, 7 assists for the season and 18 bonus points. Still very good numbers, but the returns have been very poor since Gameweek 14, and he's got 86 FPL points. He was leading the FPL charts for defenders in terms of FPL points for a very long while, but in the last 8 game weeks or so, it has been absolutely dreadful from Kieran Trippier, and Newcastle just can't win games. They're conceding multiple goals, and their XGC is amongst the worst in the league, and it actually is for the last 6-7 game weeks. So for me, Kieran Trippier is a sell. The fixtures coming up are very good. I could see clean sheets against Luton Town at home and Bournemouth at home, and the only reason I would keep him is if you have bigger priorities elsewhere. The final section is the skips, and for me, Ederson is one of them. If you have Ederson, of course, keep him. There's no reason to sell him now when he's got great fixtures over the next 5 game weeks and a double game week in 25. But if you don't have Ederson and you're looking to buy in Man City players, I would go for the likes of Walker, Kevin De Bruyne, Foden, and Erling Haaland. I pick 3 out of those 4. If you want to go very aggressive and go for a triple up in the attack, that's fine. My preference would be 1 defender and 2 attackers, and I think Kyle Walker is the best of a relatively bad bunch. But with goalkeepers, I think Ederson is way too expensive in terms of what he offers. Not enough saves, 32 this season, which is more than what he usually produces by this stage, but it's still not enough. 5 clean sheets for a 5.5 million goalkeeper. You can get more from Alisson at a similar price, but also with Areola and Dubravka, you get much better value for money, and they'll probably outscore Ederson from now until the end of the season. Ederson's ownership is 15.4%. He also has an XGC of 17.01. 55 FPL points. I just can't look past that, and I don't think Ederson just justifies that price tag for a goalkeeper. The only one I would consider at that price is Alisson, but with Areola, Raya, Dubravka, and a few other goalkeepers here and there like Petrovic, you just get much better value for money, and they'll probably keep up with Ederson at the very least, and I'd expect most of them to outscore the Brazilian. I would skip Ederson. If you want a defender or defensive coverage for Man City, I would rather go for Kyle Walker, as talked about earlier in this video. The 10th and final player covered today is Ethan Pinnock, who has a double in Gameweek 25, but the fixtures are really poor from a defensive perspective, and add on top of that Brentford's woes defensively this season with a lack of clean sheets. I don't think Pinnock or any Brentford defender is worth it. If you had to pick one, then I would go for Ethan Pinnock, but that's not saying much. 1 goal, 4 big chances. He's got the most attacking threat, I would argue, from the centre-backs, but I'm still not really backing Ethan Pinnock or any Brentford defender. And if you want a Brentford asset, Ivan Toney's the only one I'd consider at this moment in time. If Brian Mbeumo was fit and also returning from AFCON, he would be the other option I would consider. But apart from that, no one else is worth it from this team. And if you want Double Gameweek 25 assets, mainly look at Man City and potentially Liverpool if they get a double in Gameweek 25. So for me, Pinnock is a skip. He's the best Brentford defender or defensive option, but that's still not enough to justify buying him in the first place. And there we have it, 10 players to buy, hold, sell and skip, all covered in this video, and that's 20 in total for Gameweek 22 across both transfer tips videos. Be sure to check out the initial one as well to see my thoughts on Erling Haaland, Bowen, Alexander-Arnold, and many other key assets like William Saliba. As you can see on screen, Salah and Son are still the most transferred out players before the Gameweek 22 deadline, which is 8 days away from the time of this recording, the 22nd of January on the Monday. That's when this video is recorded, and we've got a 30th of January deadline for Gameweek 22. So still a long way to go, but plenty of content is also headed your way. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to the 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 23k subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, and the FPL League. There's also a link to Draft Hound in the comments section. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 22 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.